Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash. My name's Ashley, and today I'm going to bring you some great DIYs to go on your Valentine's tiered tray. If you love what I'm showing you, please come join my crafting community by subscribing to my YouTube channel, hitting that notification bell, and giving my video a thumbs up. Then hop on over to Facebook and give that page, Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor, a like and a follow. I can't wait for you to come join us. All of my DIYs in today's video are actually made to go on this tiered tray that I got at the Target dollar spot. It was just so cute, I had to have it. So let's get started. For my first DIY, I used this little crate that I got from the Dollar Tree. I made sure to pick up the one that had the little slats because we're going to make mini stacked books. Now, I have been obsessed with making these little crate stacked books lately because they are just so cute and again perfect for a tier tray. So the first thing I did was give my crate a coat of white Waverly chalk paint. After that dried, I went ahead and took my little knife and kind of just went through the little slats to make sure to get all the paint out. The next thing I did was take my pink Parfait apple barrel paint and painted the top section of that crate. Next, I took my apple barrel bright red paint and painted the bottom section of the crate. After all my paint was dry, I took my sanding block that I got from the Dollar Tree and I sanded all the colors down really well. They were just a little too bright, although don't get me wrong, I love the traditional pinks and reds for Valentine's Day, but I did want it to be muted just a little bit, so I really sanded all of it down. Next, I took my Waverly Antique Wax and a makeup sponge and I dry brushed some of the wax over my crate. Now to do this, I dipped it in the lid, dabbed a lot of the paint off on that plate, and then just lightly brushed over the whole crate with the wax. Now you don't want to apply too much pressure, but I did pay attention to the corners and the edges to give it that antique and distressed look. Then to blend all of it in, I took my sanding block and sanded it down one more time. Next, I took this pack of rub-on transfer letters that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I started cutting out every single letter that I would need. I was going to spell out our love story. So the trick to this is that you want to cut out every single letter first and try to get it as close to the letter as possible. Cut it as close to the letter as possible. And then you want to line them all up with the backing still on it. Once you know exactly how you want them lined up, you can go ahead and start rubbing it on. Now, the way I do it is I go backwards. So I start from the last letter first and work my way out. So I did the Y in story first and then again, just worked my way back. Now for my O in love, I decided to use a heart from this pack of foam hearts from the Dollar Tree. I grabbed a red heart and decided it was a little too big, so I just folded it in half and then cut it down. I placed it on my crate, but I did not hot glue it down just yet. I used it for spacing and then went ahead and rubbed on the L and then the rest of the letters. After all the letters were rubbed on, that's when I went ahead and hot glued down my heart. to distress my letters just a little bit, I lightly brushed over it with my sanding sponge. Now, obviously you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to take up a lot of the letter, but I did apply enough pressure so if a little bit of a letter here and there came off, it still looked really good and it gave it that antique look. After I distressed my letters how I like them, I took some Mod Podge and put Mod Podge over the entire thing to protect my paint and my letters. Once my Mod Podge was dry, I took this roll of red ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree and I decided to hot glue it going long ways so it covered the holes. So I wrapped it around the bottom and then brought it up to the top, and that's where I glued it. I'm going to be covering that anyways, so I didn't mind if that's where the ends met. Next, I took this roll of pearl ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree and hot glued it right to the middle of the red ribbon that was already on. Now, I decided not to wrap it around the bottom this time because I didn't want the pearls to make my crate not level or bumpy or rocky, so I just decided to cut them right at the bottom of my crate on both sides. Next, I took some twine and I decided to tie it around the middle of the pearls just to kind of bring in some rustic vibes. Now, I did end up wrapping it around a few times just to make it a little bit thicker. You can see there that it got stuck on the sides of your pearls, so you want to make sure that you wrap in the middle of your pearls. Once I felt that I wrapped it around as much as I wanted, I went ahead and hot glued the end down and cut it off. Next, I took those foam hearts again and I kind of stacked them on top of each other using the different sizes. Then I went ahead and hot glued it to the side and purposely hot glued it where all of my ends met. Then I took my twine and I made a little shoelace bow and I hot glued it in the middle of that little bunch of hearts. I think this little stacked book piece is so cute. I love the traditional pinks and reds of Valentine's Day, and it's the perfect addition to my tiered tray. What do you think? For my next DIY, I use this package of 3 mini pots that I got from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I did was brushed very lightly a coat of white Waverly chalk paint over each of my pots. Now, you don't want to give it full coverage, but you want to paint it just enough so the natural color of the pot peeks through. Next, I took some floral foam and I cut down little pieces just big enough to fit in each of the pots. Next, I took my burlap fabric and I cut little pieces to fit over the foam to hide it. I did this for each one of my pots. Then I kind of tucked it in so it stayed. I really didn't have a need to hot glue it. Next, I took this package of hearts on a stick, and these are foam hearts, and I got these from the Dollar Tree, and I just kind of measured how high I wanted it. Then I went ahead and cut it down. I did this for 2 of the pots, and for the other pot, I used the package of pink hearts. Now when I cut down the other 2 hearts, I went ahead and used that first heart I cut down as a measuring tool, so I had them all the same lengths. Then I went ahead and just simply poked them right through the burlap into my foam. Once I had all the hearts in the pots, I took some twine and cut off a piece to wrap underneath the lip of each pot. And then I went ahead and crisscrossed it in the front, tied it, and then I tied it in the back and cut off the excess. Next, I took some red and white baker twine that I actually got from the Dollar Tree as well, and I did the same thing. This time I wrapped it around a few times though because it is thinner, and then I went ahead and tied it off in the back. I did end up adding some hot glue just to make sure that it didn't move around. I did notice that the heart was moving around a lot, so I decided to add some hot glue in that hole where the stick went. That way it gave it some extra support. Next, I took some twine and the baker's twine and I wrapped them together and then made a cute little shoelace bow to hot glue in the front of my pot. These little heart pots are so cute. It kind of reminds me of the saying, "Love grows here." I just think it is adorable, and they fit perfectly on that really small tiered tray. What do you think? For my last DIY, you're going to need some wooden beads and then these pack of pearls from the Dollar Tree. Now I decided to go with the Dollar Tree wooden beads because they were already the colors that I wanted. The first thing I did was open up both packs of the wooden beads and pick out the largest size in the pink and the red beads. Now I got 2 different sizes of the pearl beads, but I just decided to use the 12mm size. So definitely go ahead and pick those ones up. So to make my beaded garland, because every tiered tray needs one, I went ahead and grabbed some twine and then I added some hot glue to the end to kind of make it pointy. Then I went ahead and just strung on my beads. Now I did have a pattern for this. I did a pink bead, a pearl, and then a red bead. And I just did this the whole way until I ran out of the wooden beads. Now when it came to the end of my string, I just wanted to make sure I ended with a pearl. After all my beads were strung, I went ahead and tied a knot at the end of each side. Next, it was time to make my tassel. So what I did was took my sanding block and wrapped the twine around several times, going long ways around the sanding block. Once I got it to the thickness that I liked it, I went ahead and took the twine off and then took a smaller piece of twine and tied it around the top part of my tassel. I did go ahead and add some hot glue so that way my twine didn't unravel. After that, I took my scissors and I cut the loops on the bottom to make them all individual strands. Then I went ahead and cut them all down to make sure that they were all the same length. To attach the tassel to my beaded garland, I went ahead and took the end of my garland and put it through the loop at the top of my tassel. Then I went ahead and pushed it all the way up to the pearl and tied it around to itself, if that makes sense. Then I pushed all the beads from the other end so it's a nice tight fit. Now I do end up adding some hot glue to the pearl and the tassel just to kind of make sure it stays in place. Next, I took this galvanized heart that I pulled off of a sign from the Dollar Tree and I hot glued it to the string on the other end of my garland. Now to make sure that the string did not come off, I went ahead and cut a little piece of that brown paper that I'm working on, that I'm crafting on, and I hot glued it to the back right on top of the string to give it just a little bit more support. Next, I took this pack of foam hearts again, and I added one of the larger pink hearts right to the front of my galvanized heart. Then I took the sheet of foam stickers that I got from the Dollar Tree and I took the smaller heart with a little hole on the side and I added that on the top of my pink heart. I did decide that the tassel was just a little long, so I went ahead and gave it a little haircut. Next, I took that red and white baker's twine and I cut off a little piece to wrap around the center of my tassel where there's a piece of twine wrapped around it already. I think that little touch of red on the tassel was the perfect way to bring in some Valentine vibes. This beaded garland was so cute, and I love that I used pearls in it too. It's kind of different. What do you think? Now it's time for the final reveal. I took these little houses that I got in a pack of 3 from Walmart after Christmas, so they're actually Christmas ornaments, and I took some of those foam glitter stickers that I got from the Dollar Tree and cut them down and just taped them to the houses to kind of make them look a little bit more Valentine's. Then that candle holder right there that has the love on it came from the Dollar Tree as well, and that light up rose. I think that little candle is so cute and I love how it blinks. I think that my tiered tray came out so cute. I love all the touches of pink and red and white. It screams Valentine's Day. You're going to have to let me know in the comments which one of these DIYs is your favorite. Are you a tiered tray person? I know I definitely am. If I could have a tiered tray for every single season and holiday, I would. And quite frankly, I'm on my way. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this tiered tray tutorial. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that little notification bar, and if you love this video, give me a thumbs up. Then hop on over to Facebook and look for my page, Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor, and give me a like and a follow. I do crafts live, and they're really fun. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and until we craft again, I'll see you soon. Happy crafting! Bye!